Kira, thanks for joining us today. We're here today to chat about the Isaleen shake. From my understanding, this is one of your favorite products. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Kira, and what brought you through onto Isagenix, and of course, why you love this shake so much.
Thank you, Lockie. Well, I have been using the Isalean shake now for just over a year, and there is a little bit of a backstory as to how I came about that. I live in the Northern Rivers, just outside of Byron Bay, and I'm a mum of 4. And 13 years ago, when I became a parent, well, my husband and I was 27 years old. We first-time parents, and our baby was born with a birth diagnosis of Down syndrome. And so that sent us on a big research deep dive into how, naturally we could be the best parents to help him, develop as best as possible. And that the first step of that was diet and nutrition. And we quickly worked out that the best form of diet for him would be organic, quality proteins, collagen-rich bone broths, organic fruit and veggies, nuts, seeds, eggs, and pretty much void of anything that was processed or inflammatory. And we quickly worked out that we would also become like a one-in, all-in kind of family. We didn't want to have a child that ate a different diet to the rest of us. And I was also breastfeeding him at the time, and we wanted to get off to a good start. So we completely switched our diet over. And I spent 13 years really a lot of time in the kitchen, a lot of food from scratch, and really pouring everything into making sure that my now 4 children eat the best, highest quality diet that they can. But something I noticed over the last few years, my 4th baby is now 5, and she was about 3.5 at the time. And I realized that the baby weight just wasn't shifting. It wasn't shifting in the same way that it had with my previous pregnancies. I was now into my late 30s, and probably I was pouring so much into my children that I was really neglecting my own health and nutrition. And that seems crazy when there's all this great nutritious food around, but I was just such a busy mum and was just skipping meals and not taking that time to put into me, which I think is quite, a natural thing for any mum. I was trying to work out why I couldn't lose the baby weight and why my energy was lacking. And my doctor diagnosed me with leptin resistance, which is not commonly diagnosed. And he was the first person that told me I should be having a high protein rich breakfast rather than skipping breakfast. And trying to get 4 kids out of the door in the morning, skipping breakfast was the first thing I was doing wrong every single day. And so I tried to start to make more of an effort there, and I found it really difficult. I then tried protein powders, and they were vegan ones, and they were altering the taste and the texture of everything that I added them to, which was not making it easy to consume. So then at a similar time, the Isaleen shake came on my radar. And to be honest, the first thing that caught my attention was the New Zealand undenatured, grass-fed, antibiotic-free, non-GMO whey protein. And a friend's husband had planted the seed to me saying, why aren't you having whey protein? Whey protein is the best for our bodies. It's the most readily available protein that you can get from a protein powder. So I had that in the back of my mind, and then the Isaleen shake came on my radar, and I thought, well, this sounds like it's a high quality protein, and this might be the next part of my journey, and I'll give it a try. I've all these bags of protein sitting in my pantry that I don't like the taste and texture of, and I'm going to try a whey protein, because perhaps that's going to be the key, and that's what's going to be different. But then the next component that really struck me was the way that Isagenix were at the time reformulating their Isaleen shake to have all the vitamins from natural sources rather than synthetic. And I think a common misconception to many is we walk into a vitamin store or a health food shop and we just think that everything in there is natural, when really over the years I've learned that the vitamin industry is kind of built on a foundation of synthetic vitamins. And our son, who's now 13, he, we're very aware of it because vitamins are a massive part of his daily life. His body, if we were to test his compared to mine, it works very differently, and there's a lot of things that are out of balance. So synthetic vitamins will always be a part of his life, but as we've learnt more about natural vitamins and how they contain more of the cofactors and the enzymes to make them, more readily absorbed by the body, we've wanted to make the switch wherever we can. And when I noticed that Isagenix were making this switch too, I realized that this was a company that was up to speed with where we were at in our journey. And if I'm going to be putting something into my body once or twice a day, I want it to be the best absorbed by my body that it can be. Otherwise, you end up with some, expensive urine, don't you? So I was really, really impressed by that. And, although we'll still always consume some synthetic vitamins, to be able to say that we're getting like our main ones through our Isalean shake as natural as possible. Now, not every company can do this because it's not easy to have a whole food vitamin source that can be tested to make sure that the nutrients are still left in it. So you will find whole food vitamins, but whether they can prove that the levels that are needed to make a shake a balanced meal, that's what I find, the technology is there with Isagenix, and that impressed me, and that's really what definitely got me over the line.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Thank you for sharing. I think it's an interesting point there with the synthetic vitamins, because if you can imagine that, of course, you mentioned there that certain vitamins, they may sort of promote, okay, we've got X amount of this ingredient, X amount of this ingredient, and there you go. But it's really about not so much what is in it, but what's absorbing, right? So what's actually going to be bioavailable, what's going to go to work in our body, and what is going to be considered, quite natural for the body to recognize and assimilate with. And when you said there, with just to sort of explain that too, if people are listening in, because obviously you're very well researched in this. This is something that you do, that you've immersed yourself in. But it's such an important factor that you brought up there about the cofactors and the enzymes, is that when we've got whole foods, we've got all these natural parts of that whole food ingredient that aim to help it digest, to help it assimilate with the body. And one of those things is enzymes, for instance, that help to speed the reaction or encourage that to go through into the body. And when you've got a synthetic vitamin, as much as you might be able to match the amount of the vitamin, you don't bring with it all of those extra buddies that used to come along for the ride when you're eating a piece of fruit or you're eating some veggies. And with the Nutrifusion, it is able to capture the natural vitamin and mineral in that state and bring with it all of those natural cofactors and enzymes as well too, which is part of what really separates it from any other a vitamin combination on the marketplace, and let alone put it in with a shake, as you mentioned, our whey protein, which is certainly the most readily available protein. It's also got a list of benefits rather than just be a great protein source. It makes for a really great combination. But we could speak for ages on that. And obviously it's something that's worked really well in your family. I love to hear it with mums and dads as well too, where they're very comfortable being able to share with their children as well too. It's obviously a safe bet because it's got great ingredients. And well, tell us a little bit about what happened there with your own experience as well, because you came into it for your own journey. So when you started taking the shakes, were you using that with cleansing? How did it work for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, some of the first things I noticed was that the more protein that I was consuming. So when I first came on, I was doing the 30-day reset, and the weight dropped fast. That was definitely
Beautiful.
very motivating. But what I noticed was that by having a high protein breakfast and then a protein shake for lunch as well, the more protein I had, the more my body craved protein. And not only the protein, but I think perhaps the fact that it's such a well-balanced meal in itself. And I didn't come into it for well-balanced macros. That's been a great extra thing that's come out of it for me. But I would get to the end of the day and I was more motivated to cook a better balanced meal for the family. So rather than just serving up the kids their raw vegetable sticks and their roast lamb or their meat, I was cooking the roasted cauliflower quinoa salad and getting the quality whole grains in there as well. And my husband was pleased because all of a sudden we were getting a meal that just had more effort put into it. And that came down to more motivation from, I think, when you're having more protein, you crave more protein, just like if you're having a diet with inflammatory foods and addictive kind of foods, you have more and more of them. They creep in and they become a component all throughout the day. But I found that in the good way, in that my body was craving the balance of all of those healthy foods. My energy levels changed. So since becoming a mum, I've always slept in longer than my husband. He would get up and start the lunch boxes and sort the kids out. And that is completely flipped. So I'm ready to go. You know, when the kids are awake now in the mornings, I'm ready. And I've always been a good sleeper, but obviously the quality of my sleep is better and just the energy to get up and go. But not only that, we get up looking forward to having our protein shake. Now, I couldn't handle having a protein shake prior to this one, but we get up and we put our organic cold brew coffee into it, and we just make it quite a ritual and a part of our day that we really look forward to during the hustle and bustle of getting out the door and getting everybody to school. The kids also, I slowly filtering it into things like healthy ice creams for them. So we have a homemade smoothie kind of ice cream that they'll always have in the freezer. That's their yes ice cream. They don't have to ask mum or dad for it. If they are hungry before breakfast, if they're hungry after dinner, they can go to that. I know it's full of great protein sources, good quality fats, and really beautiful clean ingredients. So slowly, I mean, they're still quite young, but slowly it's becoming a part of their day-to-day as well.
I love that. I love how you have a firm priority with the nutrition outside of the shakes as well too, because truth be told, this is what makes the best complement. I think when people, obviously it's a great shake and we know that it's got incredible ingredients and can do wonderful things, but combine that with great nutrition, this is where it really sort of does come to life, because it complements that as well too. So I really love how you've created that within your household. But it's an interesting thing to reflect on as well, because you had a healthy household, and people do often experience this. And I think maybe we might have that almost as the default in our mind. If it were that, say you're going down the wrong path, not eating the right foods, I've got to get back on track, and you sort of turn to the healthy meal option. You're going all organic, you're doing all the right things, but the reality can kick in sometimes where you realize, hang on, this is not working, but this is all the right stuff. This is all the good things that my body needs. And it's never to suggest that it's not going to be a great fit, but it just means that we might just have to add some extra elements in there, whether it's some fasting, so the right type of shake where it can be controlled as well too, macro controlled. And of course, making sure that you're full and that you curb those sugar cravings. Because even if you're eating healthy, and even if you're eating natural sugars, a sugar craving is a sugar craving, right? Like you could overdose on maple syrup or something that sounds like it could be quite a healthy element, but it's not necessarily great for the way that your body functions. So with 4 kids, you're feeling a lot more energetic and you're feeling a lot more.
Absolutely. And I'm the kind of person who would, if I was to make a savory, great, well-balanced meal, I would still feel like the sweet something afterwards. So the shake works really well because I'm getting the balance and all of the great macros, but I'm also getting that chocolatey hit. There's no more afternoon need for something sweet anymore, whether that be the best quality organic chocolate or whatever. That's changed. And I think what was overwhelming for me as a busy mum is that when my doctor first mentioned about having a high protein breakfast, but not only that, having protein throughout the day, protein pacing, as Isagenix would refer to it as, that was overwhelming. Once the kids are off to school and the hours that they're at school, the last thing I was doing was making multiple protein rich meals for myself throughout the day as a priority. Work was my priority because it's your 6 hours without the children home where you've got to try to do what you can work-wise so that you can be the present after-school extracurricular mum that you want to be. So yeah, I definitely noticed the energy, but also I was very aware of fasting and water fasting, but it's something that we hadn't been able to grasp because we did need the energy to show up as parents for 4 little people.
Sure.
And so the nutritional cleansing and the cleanse for life, they've been a great component as well, because it allows us to keep that energy up. And when I tell people that on my fasting day I go to Pilates at 5:30 p.m., they get a bit surprised that I'm not, half asleep on the couch. And the great thing about the whole program is that we've just got a constant, steady stream of energy coming through. There's no dips and lulls throughout that, because we just don't have time for that with 4 busy little people to care.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's really powerful, particularly when you are very busy. It's that the thought of adding more to that is often, I'd imagine, quite conflicting, because in your mind you're thinking, well, I don't have enough time to be able to do all of that. But like you said, one of the real key elements here is energy. When you've got the energy to do something, you're more inclined to obviously to eat better, to add in exercise. And this is something that I know personally, when I first came onto Isagenix, I used to recommend that people would start their nutrition. And of course, because of my training background, we'll train at the same time. We'll do the cleansing, we'll do everything all at once. And what I learned was to pull back and to let the nutrition side of things be the focus first, because quite oftentimes people might get to the end of that 30 days and they've got all this extra energy, they'll be compelled to want to exercise. Whereas if I started them off too soon with trying to do everything all at once, I wasn't allowing them to see how they might be able to do it, how they might have the energy. Because it sounds wonderful, but until you're in the moment where you actually feel it in your own life, you're sleeping better, you're waking up, your day is easier. Like you said, you get up before your husband. That's a real, effect that you're seeing. So it makes it a lot more feasible for you to be able to be consistent with it, I imagine. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And I'm really excited for the next part of my journey to be more about the fitness, but having an integrative doctor that's overseen my pregnancies and things, and him telling me 2 years ago, you're in leptin resistance, your body doesn't recognize that there is, fat to burn on your body. So when you're getting up and going to that 6 a.m. boot camp class, your body's burning muscle before it's burning fat. And no mum of 4 who's getting up for a 6 a.m. boot camp wants to be told that when they know that they have the weight to lose. So it was really motivating to be able to pull back from those things that perhaps weren't serving my body well, like the early morning exercise, get on top of things like the protein and the nutrition, and balancing that out throughout the day better, the cortisol, the fasting. And then now I really feel like I'm at the best stage to take that fitness side more seriously. My body's better set up for it, and it's just going to succeed more at it because I have all those other things under control, where I think a lot of the time we just think we have to go straight into fitness and we go hardcore into that, and it can sometimes do a little bit more damage than what we would expect. And so this has been just such a solid foundation. Yeah.
It's so true. So they have this vision of springing out of bed in the morning, as they say. You do a week of training and you're literally crawling out of bed. You think, is this what this is all about? But I think that's, like you mentioned, that the great thing, yes, we have a wonderful setup and our body's going to be absorbing all these great elements from the shake, but the really important part here is that recovery. So this is where that whey protein comes to light. And if we're absorbing this correctly, and our gut is going to be obviously going to be adapted to absorb it better because you're in good health, then that recovery happens a lot more efficiently, which means that you can get back in and do some exercise more frequently. So even with the best of intentions, sometimes people start off, I'm exercising every day. That's my goal to myself. But it could actually be, if their health wasn't in check just yet, that actually might be one of the worst things for them to do at the current moment. So I always say, though, when you learn to put these products into place with exercise, you fall in love with them all over again, because you realize how much they can do some great good with that. So that's exciting for you then. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I really enjoyed your story. And all the best with the fam, but some of those meals sound pretty amazing that you guys are cooking up there as well too. Is that something that you?
My 13-year-old, he loves his food. We're actually away at the moment in Victoria. That's why I'm so rugged up on the Surf Coast for an intensive therapy conference. So he'll do about 50 hours of therapy over 8 days with some incredible people from Russia, Poland, and the US. We have about 10 therapists that have flown out for this. But last night we went seeking slow cooked lamb shoulder, and it was for 2 people, and I tell you, I didn't get a lot of that lamb shoulder last night, so we drove down to Lawn to find that. So yeah, nutrition is a big part, and it's just been incredible over 13 years to see him grow into the active, strong 13-year-old that he is, when that wasn't the picture that was painted for us 13 years ago when we were in hospital with this newborn baby. You know, it was a bleak picture that was painted, and so that really motivated us to make sure that we would do what we could. And I tell you, all of that protein and that bone broth and all of the things, he's nearly as tall as me, and can't keep him still. He's out in the tennis court and the soccer pitch, and he's just, yeah, such an active boy. So it's also worth it. And when you've got these little people around you, it's really motivating to get yourself back on track to be, you know, the best active parent that that you can be. And that's been such a joy to be able to bring Isagenix into our life and watch the shift that it's made for us, so that we can match the kids, really, because they're all thriving.
Awesome. So good to hear. Will you enjoy your time there? And thanks again. It was really lovely chatting, Kira.
Thanks, Lockie. Lovely to meet you.